Everybody, and welcome to another week at Mortgage Coach. Every single Tuesday, 9 o'clock Pacific. I'm here, Dave Savage, to interview someone amazing. And today I have a very special interview, someone who's become a good friend of mine. He is the leader of sales at Mortgage Coach, and he is an author. Welcome, Jim Wrigley, to today's call, my friend.
Hey, Dave. How are you? Glad to be here.
Good. Glad to have you, and look forward to the conversation we're going to have. I do want to remind everybody, every single Tuesday we're doing this call, 9 o'clock Pacific, and it is being recorded. So you can check it out on our YouTube channel. It'll be available within a couple hours. Want to remind everybody, every Friday we do the Mortgage Coach Productivity Mastermind call. That's also available on our YouTube channel. So Jim, let's get into this conversation. I'm looking forward to having the conversation because, one, I read your book. I read it before I brought you on the team at Mortgage Coach, but I read it again over the weekend because I think it's a great conversation for mortgage professionals. I do want to say, all you mortgage professionals on this call, when Jim wrote this, Jim has been selling to, call it, executives, the C-suite, his whole career. He wasn't a loan officer, but when you think of the content and you think of the conversation we're going to have, it's a great conversation for real estate agents. It's a great conversation for just about any referral source. And a lot of it does transition into your conversation with borrowers, but think of this as a conversation for getting more business, selling more, making more money, and as Jim says, how to turn prospects into paychecks when you're dealing with referral partners. So Jim, let's start this interview with the first question. And let's just talk a little bit about your backstory as a sales leader. And I'd love to know what you're most proud of as a sales leader, and then we'll get into the book.
Okay. Well, I'll first of all, I do think it applies. Yes, my whole career has been selling executive C-suite people. But I do think it applies to loan officers because I do have a background in sales. In fact, going all the way back, I was the son of an individual contributor. My father was a salesperson. So terms like conversion rates and closing rates and referrals and all of that goes back to literally when I was a kid. And in terms of your question of what I'm most proud about as a sales leader is working in the mortgage industry. There is a report called Fraud Guard. Back in the day, it had a different name, but back in the day, no one was buying a fraud report, meaning they were originating loans. There was no real check to see if the veracity of the borrower, the veracity of the information, the value of the property. And we introduced that product. And now you don't originate a loan without having that product. So having been part of something that became ubiquitous in the space is something that I'm very proud of. And in fact, I joined Mortgage Coach because I believe every single loan should have a TCA. And when I heard about your company, Dave, and just even the name Coach, Mortgage Coach is in the name, or Coach is in the name, I thought, you know what, this is something that everybody has to have. So I do think my background in mortgage and also the book, and it applies to individual loan officers in a very significant way.
Oh, absolutely. And Jim, I wasn't implying it didn't apply to the individuals. I was saying I think the lessons to be learned here could help mortgage professionals just kill it with realtors, financial planners, CPAs, corporate, and I think there's just an extra emphasis of value there. But no doubt, every aspect of the sale makes lots of sense. So let's get into the book, and then let's get into lessons for loan officers. Why did you write this book?
Well, actually, I wrote the book because, and again, from the coaching perspective, I was asked to write the book. I know that sounds silly, but I am a coach by nature. I believe that in helping other people to do something that you help yourself, teaching is twice learned. And a lot of people, when I went out on sales calls as a sales manager, said, that's a great idea. I wish there was a place where you would write it down, or do you have a book, or I'd buy your book. And I just heard that over a long period of time. So I finally decided to just settle down and write it. It was actually called Bank Sales 101, was the original version of it, manuscript, if you will. A lot of people used it to learn how to be a better salesperson. And so that's how it came to be. So in fact, it's funny, one of the things I wanted to talk about today was when it comes to a book, if you're gonna do something, then do it. And I'm a big believer in that as a salesperson. Don't talk about doing something, actually step up and do it. So when I said, yeah, I'm gonna write a book, I'm very pleased that I actually got it over the finish line. And I think that's an important thing for every individual salesperson, to not just have good ideas or something you want to do, but actually do it.
Yeah, well, I know how hard it is to write a book. Coach Bill Hart, who has a book coming out this next year, has been writing it for a long time, and anybody who's been part of a book knows that what an accomplishment that is. Now, one thing that struck me, and I wanna shine a light on this, is that your book is not chapters; it's acts. So walk us through, how you create, why you created something different than your typical book with X number of chapters.
Well, that's exactly right. And I had help in writing the book. His name was Paul Brigandy, who's actually writing his own book as well, who helped me develop it. And he had the idea that it really wasn't a book. It wasn't a how-to book. It was, I am a big, passionate person about you've got to take action. So each of the chapters of the book, yes, it's set up, organized in that way. Each of the chapters of the book are called acts. And the act is the idea that these are 29 things that you can do, and if you would just pick 1 or 2 or 3 of them and try it and try to do something different, I believe that you would have success with that. So the idea is just in a sequential order. There are 3 things a salesperson can control in my view, and everything else is off to the side, and that is you can control your own personal attitude, you can control the quantity of work that you do, like how hard you go at it, and you can control the quality of what you say when you talk to people when you're making a sales presentation. So it's organized in that fashion so that there are actions that you can take with each one of those to improve your attitude, to improve the quantity of calls that you make, and to do better when you're making those actual calls. So that's why they're called acts, not chapters, and there are 29 of them in the book. We can talk about a few of them.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things I liked about it. When I first picked it up, I actually didn't read it from cover to cover. I looked at the table of contents. I was like, okay, attitude, quality, quantity, and I picked acts. So I kind of jumped around, and then I have read the whole book now, and I have to tell you, I'm going to keep it as a reference. I mean, I actually, again, I brought it to this trip because, 1, I'm interviewing you, and 2, I wanted to reference some of the things. So I love that about it. So let's go through and let's just talk about the first chapter, why attitude, and walk us through some thoughts on attitude. And then let's also try to make this so it's incredibly relevant to an individual loan officer. And let's also give some ideas to managers who are managing loan officers or loan officers and have teams on how they can elevate their own attitude and how they can elevate the attitude of people around them.
Yeah, so the big part about attitude is that attitude is a choice. And I'm even fascinated that with myself. If you're ever having a down day, and everybody has a down day, and something's caused, quote unquote, caused you to have a down day, I believe that attitude is a choice. You can make that decision that you're going to do something different, that you're going to be different, that you're going to think differently. And it's just remarkable to me when it comes to attitude. There's a phrase which is the serenity prayer, which was really important to me back in the day. And the serenity prayer goes without the full version, but it's control. Have the courage to control what you can change. Have the ability to accept what you can't change, and the wisdom to know the difference. And it's amazing if you just look at the things that you can control as a salesperson, that if you just focus on that, you can make a big difference. And if you let the other things, swipe you away, then you don't. For example, in the mortgage business, there's a lot of things. It's not easy to originate a loan. There's a lot of moving parts to it, but you can't control the quantity of people you talk to. You can't control the quality of what you can say. And as it relates to Mortgage Coach, I know a lot of people know about Mortgage Coach, heard about it, like it, yeah, and then they land on that they don't do it, right? And so that's an attitude thing. If you want to try, one of the things I talk about in the book is you're not going to get better if you don't try some things. So I'd like to see people that haven't used Mortgage Coach before try it, and I'd like to see people that do use Mortgage Coach take a good attitude and look at the people with a bad attitude about it and say, why is it that you're stepping aside of something that's so good? It makes simple sense to me. So that's the point on that.
Yeah. So I am going to pull up a slide real quick, and I want to shine a light on an interview and a loan officer in the Mortgage Coach community. If you could confirm you can see my screen, Jim?
Yep, I got it.
All right. So the call I want to shine a light onto from an attitude standpoint is Jeremy Forcier. So I've interviewed Jeremy a number of times. Anybody that's watched one of these interviews, anybody that knows Jeremy Forcier, know that his attitude and his energy is just next level. In this particular call, he focuses on what are the 5 questions he asks every realtor. And so one thing I want to shine a light on when it comes to attitude is, first of all, Jeremy is prepared. If you listen to the interview, he actually writes, even though he's asked these questions dozens of times before he goes into meetings with agents. He knows the questions he's going to ask. By the way, what does that do? It makes him more confident because he's really clear on what am I going to accomplish with this agent. And then he's always got a next move. Question number 4, where he asks, hey, what are your non-negotiables? He knows where that goes with realtors. It goes to communication. And as a mortgage coach, he is ready to, communication is important to you? It's important to me. It's one of the cornerstones to my success. In fact, the way I deliver advice to families, I use Mortgage Coach, Total Cost Video. In fact, would you like me to show you how I communicate with your client? So there's great attitude, there's great script, and I throw it out to everybody. It really is a choice. I want everybody, if you don't mind, just so we know you're participating, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being you feel like you have got whatever your most authentic, your most winning attitude, you're a 10, where are you at right now in the market today? We're in November of 2017. Where is your attitude? I would love for you to, in the question section, let us know. By the way, I'm seeing that people are being very vulnerable. I'm not going to call out names, but a 2, a 9, a 6 or a 7, a 10. By the way, everybody that's putting in 10, congratulations. But I'm seeing some 7s, some 5s. I'm new, another 5. So wherever your attitude is, put it in Q&A. And part of having a great attitude is just being really clear and really honest about where you're at right now. And I would just tell everybody go ahead, Jim.
I was just going to make a note about attitude, which is also from the book. So there's a thing called emojis. Everybody knows what they are, the little smiley faces you see, and there's all these different things. Why has emojis become so popular? You know why? Because we don't communicate in a way that's personal anymore. So one of the things that you can do with attitude, right, we, through Mortgage Coach, have a video that can attach. And you can see a person's body language. You can see a person's gesture. You can see them smiling, their confidence, their comfort letter, whatever it is, their energy. And so that's one of the places where Mortgage Coach brings attitude into your sales process, which had defaulted to the phone, and then it had defaulted to email, and it's become completely impersonal, and that hurts the mortgage origination process. So Mortgage Coach, using video, has brought the personalities back into it. It takes just a few minutes to do it, and it's a great place to say, okay, I'm going to do a video. Now, what's interesting is we know, Dave, you know this because you work with people, plenty of people use Mortgage Coach and don't put the video on there. So they have an attitude towards their video, which is a bad attitude towards the video. I'm saying have a good attitude. Try something different. If you've been using Mortgage Coach and you don't use the video, I'd like you to pick up a pen and write it down on a piece of paper and say, you know what, the next one of these things goes out, I'm going to put a video on it. I'm going to put my personality into it. I think you're going to see your results really change. That's why attitude is so important in sales.
Absolutely. And by the way, I'm going to put a link to Jeremy Forcier's 5 questions. There'll be a link in chat. Marcy, if you could put that there, and if you're watching the recording of this, there'll be a link down below. I've done hundreds of interviews. There's hundreds, almost 1,000 videos in our YouTube channel. It's one of the requirements. Every Mortgage Coach member has to check that out. So, Jim, before we move off of attitude, I know in Act 9, it's called Tellem versus Selim. If you could just speak to that, what are you trying to communicate there from a Tellem versus Selim perspective?
So the idea of Tellem versus Selim is somewhat of, and I hate the term assumptive close, but that is again, I grew up in sales, so we'll use the word close. We're not trying to close people. We are trying to close loans. We are trying to close people. We are trying to convince them. But the idea is to lead people along and to tell them what's going to happen, tell them what's next in the process, tell them how to buy from you. One of the things that always I think is really important is for people to understand the buying process. And if you're a salesperson, you're taking them on a journey. So just tell them what's going to go next. Even if something is bad that's going to happen, and by the way, in the origination process, there is paperwork, so that's not a good thing, and you're going to have to dig out all this stuff. So tell them what the process is going to be. Tell them that you're going to check in on them with the process, right? Because I think that's important. If you need the documents by a certain day, tell them that you're going to be calling back when you don't get the documents by a certain day, and then move them along the process. And I think that's such a better way of doing it. It's essentially be a helper. Move people along the process. Don't try to convince them to do anything. Just show them this is the way that works. We've done this a lot of times before. If you will follow a path that is already set for you, all you have to do is walk along the path. That's the idea of tell them versus.
Well, and I love that. I mean, I've interviewed so many of the nation's best, and they all have a few things in common. They communicate incredibly well, but they're leaders. They are telling people what to do, how to do it, and they're always setting great leadership standards. You know, they play at a high level, and they lead people next step, next step. You had something you wanted to say, Jim?
I was just going to make a point. So last week's, I watched these things as you record them each week. So last week's was excellent. It was how to do a mortgage coach in 5 minutes. And I was fascinated with it. I was a little, actually, one of the things I'd like people to do is watch more of these videos, because there were five professionals, there were 4 people on, and each one of them explained their process. And you know what? When they did their videos, right, with a good attitude, with a big smile, they gave us samples of what they did. Each time they told their customers what was going to happen next. And as I listened to the videos that they demonstrated for everybody, I was like, how do you not choose? In fact, I was stuck because there were 4 really good people. I'm like, which person would I use as a loan officer? Every one of them, right? They gave the experience, the buyer's experience, the borrower experience that I would want to have. That quite frankly, and you have to think about this, as a borrower, we don't get it, right? We think about the borrower experience out there. It's not that good for a lot of borrowers. If you were to ask borrowers in general, is getting a loan a good thing? I don't think a lot of people would say, yeah, that was really a good time. So this is the way that we can improve it, and I just love watching those professionals. If you haven't watched last week's call, which was how to make a mortgage coach in 5 minutes, which a lot of people don't think it can be done in 5 minutes, but it really was worth watching. And Dave, I hope you repost that or whatever it is to get people to go.
We'll put a link below. If you're watching the video, there'll be a link in the YouTube description, and we'll put a link in chat. So what I want to do now, and by the way, everybody who participated, I mean, I can't believe, we have a lot of people, you know, hundreds of people on this call, hundreds of people watching the video, a lot of people let us know what their attitude is. We're going to talk about, you know, quantity, because at the end of the day, if you don't hit your numbers, you know, whether you have a good attitude or a bad attitude, you're dead. You can have an amazing attitude, but if you don't talk to enough people, oh well, you're not gonna kill it. So let's talk about quantity. Jim, before I ask this question, I would love to know in the question area, what is the quantity you're supposed to hit? You know, how many people are you supposed to talk to a week to achieve your application goals, your referral goals? If you have a quantity goal and you are on this call, I want you to put that in questions right now. I would love to know, you know, whether it's how many realtors you meet, how many borrowers. I know different coaching programs, you know, have a formula. Please, in questions, share what it is. And then, Jim, just talk to us about, you know, why you picked this as one of your categories, and then a few things that you think are most on point for the mortgage coach community.
So on quantity, it's really interesting. So first of all, your first question, why did I pick them? There's a lot of things that happen when salespeople get together, when loan officers get together. You talk about all the things that are wrong and all the rules that are happening in the market, and the rates are rising, and that's all negative stuff, right? What we should do is get together and talk about things that we can change. And one of the things that we can change, probably more than anything, is quantity goals, right? The amount of calls, the amount of effort, the amount of things that you put into it, you can control. And there is an old device I did not invent. It's in the book. I don't know what page it's on in the book. You probably saw it, Dave. It's called the telephone tracker. And one of the things that I do with the telephone tracker is I just control how many phone calls I make. Meaning, you've heard set goals before. I'm like, forget set goals. Write down how many calls you make. And if I ask someone how many calls they make in a day, it never measures up. And it's a self-discovery thing, because as a manager, I don't want to manage how many calls you make a day, but as an individual contributor, you want to find, there it is. Yeah, okay, there it is. Yeah. All you do is you write, it's like a tick mark. And if somebody says that they're going to make 10 calls, and this is a technique that I would recommend, Dave, make 10 calls before 10 o'clock. It's amazing how hard that is to do, actually. But it's a lot easier if you say, I'm going to make 10 calls before 10 o'clock, and then you have your telephone tracker right next to you, and you'll look up and you're like, oh my God, it's 10 o'clock. I've only made 5 calls. So if you can increase your quantity of whatever your goals, and I know in the mortgage business there are people that actually have coaches. There are people that pay other people in some cases. If I don't make my quantity goals, then I'm going to make a donation to my charity that I don't like. I mean, I've heard all kinds of things that cajole and trick people into making quantity goals. But if you're going to set records, if you're going to break records, you've got to set records, and you really got to understand what you're doing on a quantity basis. So that's
no,
it.
no, yeah, no doubt. The core has something they call the greatness tracker. And then Todd Bookspan, who's my co-host on our Friday call, he's got, the Win by Noon handbook. And by the way, the Win by Noon book is incredible. Regardless of whether your coach is building champions, the core, all the different coaches in the industry, the Win by Noon book that Todd Bookspan has put out is amazing. You can go to winbynoon.com, check it out. But it really helps you track your metrics that matter most. I would love to see a few more folks. So far, it looks like people are saying, hey, 50 calls a week, 10 realtor meetings a week seems to be the common thread. I would love a little bit more color on what is winning the day for you and what is winning the week. And I don't only want to know how many calls are you making, but how many conversations are you having. I know me personally, I want to have 5 quality conversations a day. And if I have 5 conversations, by the way, for a quality conversation to have taken place, I needed to have learned something about this customer or prospect. I needed to have next steps and promises, and they need to be documented in my CRM. If you're not learning something, getting next steps, documenting in your CRM, is it really quality? It may be good, but it's not great. So Jim, anything else come to mind when you think about quantity that you think might help the mortgage coach community take it to the next level? And by the way, folks, we are going to have time for Q&A. So if you have questions for myself or Jim, post those anytime. I am watching the Q&A area. And by the way, I just saw a couple people, 5 quality conversations a day, 5 realtor meetings with next steps a week. So we're getting some great feedback. Jim?
So the 10 by 10, so as I'll answer, I can't type into the system, but I like 10 by 10. I just like 10 by 10 because if you're going to do 10 by 10 3 days a week, then you've got to kind of get up and get on that because that is a lot of calls. But one of the keys to making quantity calls, making enough calls, is to have what I call, and it's Act 12, creating an active prospect list. And what an active prospect list is to know who you're going to call, because when you have that moment, that free moment to make a call, and then you have to go research who you're going to dial or where's their contact information, the phone will ring, somebody will walk in the office, something will happen, and all of a sudden the call does not get made. So if you want to make a high volume of calls, I think the key is to have an active prospect list, something that's ready. A trick that I used to do is a cue for me was the word lunch. Whenever somebody said, hey, Jim, do you want to go to lunch? I said, yes, I do, but you know what? I just got to call this one guy. And it was amazing because I had my peers. Now, it was a different scenario, but I had my peers standing next to me, not making calls that I'm supposed to be doing better than, right? And so they're waiting, and I'm making just one more call before we go to lunch. It's amazing how often, if you make the call that you weren't expecting to make, how often you get connected. And I'll tell you one last one. Payphones are gone, but I used to always call from payphones that were noisy. In fact, one of the most important calls I've ever had in my life, it was snowing, it was cold, it was misting on my head, the whole thing, and I said, you know what, I've been trying to get this guy, and he's going to answer the phone if I call him from this payphone from the road, and sure enough, here I've got this important CEO meeting just because I made the extra call. And I was able to do that because I had what I call an active prospect list, meaning the people that are up next on my call list were right there in my pocket. And I know, Dave, we have Base, we have a CRM system that you go to trade shows, we were getting an Uber, and what were you doing? You were pulling up a list waiting for Uber, and you were making calls, right? Just because there's the time. So there is a way. If people say they're too busy to make calls, they don't have the energy to make, there is a way to increase your activity without doing very much else, right? So
no doubt. And if you are not taking what you learn, putting your next steps in whatever CRM you're using. By the way, I would love for everybody to let us know what CRM you are using. Please, in questions, just listen up. Love to just get rapid fire and get 100 people telling us what CRM they're using. So,
hey,
Jim,
Dave, one second on that too. And the other thing about making calls is you have to think about people. Everybody is either a prospect, especially in the origination business. Everybody is either a prospect or a referral source. So there is no bad, if you're a mortgage loan originator, there is no bad conversation. because either you're going to get the actual, yeah, we're looking at the house, whatever, or you're going to get to ask the question or just remind somebody that you're in the business. Who do you know? You can ask for referrals. So if you look at it, every single phone call as a prospect or a referral source, there's never a wasted call. And that actually, I think, motivates people to make the extra effort as well.
Absolutely. And then in Act 16, so in this chapter, Act 16, you talked about servicing after the sale, get referrals. Talk to us about that a little bit.
So that one is super powerful because most people don't want to know. And the reason why I'm smiling is, so service after the sale is, and by the way, in loan origination, I'm not a loan originator, but I think this is the most powerful thing. When is the person happiest with the home? Dave, what do you think?
After they've moved in and everything, or
right,
the day they get approved and after they're in and it's all done.
After they're in and they're all done. So it's not that hard if you're a loan originator to mark a file that says 30 days ago, right? Every 30 days that after someone's moved in, call and ask, how's the home, right? That's service after the sale. That's saying, okay, we did something together. We had an expectation of what it was supposed to be. And what it was supposed to be in the case of loan origination is we're moving into this beautiful home. How is the home? How is the place? Are you excited? Are you happy? Oh, we love Nashville, Tennessee. It's the greatest thing. I've already called my sister and told her she needs to move there. You see how prospects and referral source, right? I mean, it's just remarkable. So I think if I were a loan originator, that would be somebody that goes on my prospect list that just marked the file 30 days later. They've moved into the house. Hey, how's the neighborhood, right? Because it's going to go, it inevitably is going to go into the neighborhood is great. Thank you. We really appreciate you. The loan closed on time. You did an excellent whatever. You don't, yes, you should ask for the referral, but you probably won't even have to ask for a referral because you're catching a human being at their highest point, right? And
no,
why not?
No doubt, no doubt. And I will tell you that I've, again, interviewed the best loan officers in the country. Most of them have, a milestone that they're calling at approval. Jeremy Forcier talks about how I want to be involved in all the celebrations. And yes, they have a call after it closes, and then they keep on calling. They have an annual review call. So I want to show a couple slides again. Remember, this call is recorded. It's in our YouTube channel. Someone just asked a question for me to show the Jeremy Forcier slide one more time. By the way, here is a picture of the slide. It's top 5 questions for realtors. We will put a link down below. But what I want to shine a light on right now is I did an interview with John Downs. So here's what I love about this John Downs story. John just started using Mortgage Coach 45 days ago. And maybe, by the way, maybe it's 48 or 49 days ago as of today. He has been coming to our Friday call. He was a guest on it recently. By the way, he was also one of the loan officers featured in our How to Create a Total Cost Analysis in 5 minutes. So the guy's only been using Mortgage Coach for less than 2 months, and he's already done over 100 total cost analysis. And he was one of the fastest when it came to creating the total cost analysis because he set up a great system. Anyways, after that call, he posted this where he actually won a deal from a realtor. What I'm showing on the screen right now is, how he forwarded the total cost analysis to the borrower. And then look what the realtor said. John, I want to say I'm super impressed by your materials. This is incredible stuff here. By the way, who on this call would love it if you got a referral from a realtor, you serviced that referral, and the way your realtor responded was, I am super impressed. It's amazing. I mean, that's what you want. And by the way, why does John get that? John gets that because he's delivering a total cost analysis. In fact, he also said during the interview that I saved, no joke, 15 minutes on every quote since I started using Mortgage Coach. So the way he used to deliver rates and fees took him 15 minutes longer, and he's now getting realtors saying how amazing he is. So I'm showing this within the context of quantity, and I'm showing it for a couple of reasons. And by the way, this is an 18-minute interview. I'm going to put a link down below, and I'm also going to put a link in this. And this is why I'm talking about this within the context of quantity, because look at the extra touch points that John's getting. These were the 3 big ideas that came. Actually, there were 4 big ideas. One of them was how every time he's delivering, he calls it the total cost analysis, a DMA, a digital mortgage analysis. But every time he forwards that, he loops in the realtor. By the way, more quantity. He's got another touch point with the realtor.
Right.
Can you still hear me, Jim?
Yep, I'm good. Yep. So
okay.
I want to add something, Dave, and then not just a point on that video. So first of all, from a quantity standpoint, quantity is also about doing the work. And one of the things of doing the work is you got to watch the videos, right? So if you're going to do something different and try something new, because on that video, John says something very important. In addition that he saves 15 minutes on every one of his quotes, what else did he say, Dave? He said that he knew about Mortgage Coach 3 years ago, right? He started just a little bit ago, and he's happy that he's on now, but he's also sad that he missed it 3 years ago. So, so one of the things in the book is trying something new, stepping out of your box, being different. And if you're going to do the work, this is the quantity section of our discussion. If you're going to do the work, put in the effort. Watch John's video and share it with other people, because it's remarkable for the fact that he, you know, he knew it was there and he didn't do it. So, just a point. It looks like you're.
Yeah, and then a couple other, you know, call it more, and I think everybody on this call, you've got a lot of buyers in your pre-approval funnel. Let's face it, people aren't going from initial pre-qual to in escrow as quick as they used to. A lot of offers to get a property, a lot of properties you got to try to get. So John is sending out the digital mortgage analysis to his funnel, and then calling, you know, every 2 weeks. And by the way, John also mentioned how it's reducing call reluctancy. So again, another way to get more quantity, more numbers.
Right.
He also talked about using the digital market presentation. Again, more opportunity, another touch point with realtors. I didn't put it as number 4. John also talks about how he's using Mortgage Coach for annual reviews. So again, another opportunity to get more quantity, more calls with your past customers is to do a Mortgage Coach total cost analysis every year to show them how their loan compares to the market. So let's get back. By the way, anything you want to add to the John Downs interview, Jim, before we move on to quality?
I just want to say that people will do more work when the work is successful, right? Isn't that weird? If you have a formula that works, then you're going to be less reluctant. He said right in the video that he's got call reluctance, right? So you're going to be less reluctant to want to call people and more excited about doing more work if you've got a system that works. And John has discovered something that he's known about for a long time, that he heard about for a long time. He finally tried something different, and that took him to a new level. He talks about making 15 to 25% more money, and it's just because his confidence level goes up. So when you're talking about quantity is having something that works, because if you have something that works, it's easy to have more quantity. It's easy to make that decision. Remember, attitude's a decision. It's easy to make the decision to move forward. So yeah, before getting off that, I would ask that everybody goes to the video and like makes a note, like take a pen and write it down. The guy's name is John Downs. It's easy to search. You go to Mortgage Coach YouTube channel, put in John Downs. He comes up. Watch one. One of the things, potato chips are interesting, Dave. I don't know if you know this story, right? You can't eat one potato chip. YouTube is kind of that same way. If you'll watch one John Downs YouTube video, you'll get interested in doing some other things as well. So before we moved off that, I just wanted, that was a...
No problem. And I did put a link to the interview in chat. Also, I wrote over the weekend. I mean, it was such an important call that I wrote a LinkedIn article over the weekend. I'm going to put a link to that below. And the one last call out on that interview, which I found incredibly interesting, is here's a guy who's been in the mortgage business for almost 2 decades, 17 years, who does over $100 million a year in volume. So I mean, extraordinarily successful. And he admitted, I have call reluctance. He still has call reluctance. And so part of his strategy is, what can I do so that I can make easy calls? And he's like, hey, giving all my pre-approval buyers a digital mortgage analysis. Now I'm more comfortable and confident to call them, because it's like, hey, do you have any numbers you want me to update in your mortgage analysis? That's an easier call than, you know, the same time, hey, this is Dave, keeping in touch with you. You have any questions? Did you find a house yet? It's a better conversation, less call reluctance. So let's get into quality, Jim. You know, I like to always ask you why. Why was quality one of your, you know, call it the legs of the table? You know, why did you pick quantity? and then, or excuse me, quality.
Quality,
and
yeah, I
what
use
would,
it all the time.
yeah, and what would be some quality examples or acts that you want to call out for the mortgage coach community?
So before we go, I wanted to say one thing on quantity first before we go. So the last one is the importance of testimonials and getting referrals and asking for referrals. So I would be remiss if I didn't ask the community for referrals myself, right? So I am the head of sales, and I know, yes, thank you for the thumbs up, Dave. You knew I would do this, right? So with a chance to talk to people that know about the success of Mortgage Coach, I am perfectly comfortable. I'm proud of Mortgage Coach. I think it does well for people. I think it's helped a lot of people be successful. I have no problem looking right at the camera and saying, if there is somebody that is interested or that you know that is a loan originator that is not using Mortgage Coach, that we would like to hear from that individual. We would like to hear from that individual's boss, the head of production, what have you. I think it's important to get testimonials. We have lots of them, and it's important to ask for referrals because people won't do it if you don't ask. So before we move on, Dave, that's the section of the book where it says ask for referrals. I think it's I can't remember. Act 17 is asking for referrals, so I took the opportunity to ask the audience, please do that. It helps us, of course, at Mortgage Coach, but it also helps you because you're sharing something successful with another person. So everybody wins by sending us some business.
So two thoughts on that. I'm going to supersize that. So first of all, my email is Dave@Mortgage Coach, and Jim is Jim@Mortgage Coach. So the best way is to introduce us. You know, one or both of us, again, or introduce us to the C-suite. You know, who's your manager? You know, an introduction. Dave@Mortgage Coach, Jim@Mortgage Coach. Yeah, Jim. Thank you for asking for referrals. Great job. And know everybody on the call. The best way to say, hey, the best way to say thank you for the calls that we do is to play it forward. You know, introduce us to someone else that we can add to our team. So quality. Why quality, and drive an act or two in quality that you think would help the community? So
quality, and I got the chapters of my book, the acts in my book, and Act 19 is called a conversation versus a presentation. And so very often as salespeople, we have a lot of things to say, so we go into presentation mode, right? The idea is, so here's how you get out of presentation mode. You say the words, hello, Mr. Prospect. I believe that a conversation like this is a conversation, not a presentation. So this isn't a loan presentation. This isn't all your options being presented to me. This isn't me schooling you on the mortgage business or the loan origination business. No, this is a conversation. So a conversation usually means two people are talking. And now that I've told you it's a conversation versus a presentation, tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me a little bit about what you want to accomplish here. If this isn't your first loan, how did your first loan go, right? What did you learn from the last time? And there's just a number of questions you can ask people to engage them so that you're having a conversation with them as opposed to a presentation, because so often salespeople run in with ideas. They know how they're going to do this. They've done it a million times. You forget that the person has done it one time, right? You might do 10 loans a month if you're a top producer. They're going to do 2 loans in a lifetime, or 4, I think, in a lifetime. And if they're young, it could be their first time. So conversation versus presentation is an act in the book that I think is just super powerful.
Yeah, and I would take it one step further. In today's market, you've got to go from conversation to experience. You need to create this wow experience. You know, big buzzword in our industry called the perfect loan process. You know, by the way, quality in the mortgage industry is delivering a perfect process. And by the way, that means you as a loan officer, it needs to be written down. What is your perfect loan process? What are the standards of your perfect loan process? And if you're on this call, a total cost analysis, you wouldn't be part of our community if you did not believe that a total cost analysis was a consistent standard and a consistent experience and a conversation that you should have with every borrower. So I do want to post a question right now to you. I'd love to know, we've got a lot of folks on this call, how often are you delivering that total cost analysis to your family? You know, and let's call it just the total cost analysis conversation. And so daily, weekly, monthly, never. I need 70% of you to vote so we can move on to the next question, just so we really know where are you at. So please, I have pushed a poll question. How often are you delivering a total cost analysis to your clients and having this conversation? A little less than 50% of you have voted. Come on, guys, let's participate At Mortgage Coach, we're all about masterminding, which means everybody participates. So all you need to do is click a button here and let us know where you're at. So, you know, the good news is 80% of the people on the call are delivering a total cost analysis. So now that means 80% of you are delivering quality at least monthly. You know, little less than half of you are doing it daily, which, let's face it, if you really want to skyrocket your results, it's what you do every day. Winning the day is how many people did you talk to, quantity, and quality. Did you have the total cost analysis conversation, and whatever your other standards are. And by the way, if you do have some other standards that you think are just essential to the highest quality conversation, share what those other standards are. You know, total cost analysis is one. What is another standard that equals quality from your perspective? Jim, is there anything else in that, I don't want to call it chapter, in that section of the book, is there another act that you think is important to the community on today's call?
Well, so one of them is just building a repeatable process, right? Because in the end, we are a part as loan officers of a loan manufacturing process. And if it's a loan manufacturing process, then we're doing the same things the same way on a regular basis in a fashion that works. So you want to have something that is consistent that you do on an everyday basis. And I do think Mortgage Coach is part of that loan manufacturing process. When do you send it? Know when you send it. Why do you send it? Know why you sent it. When do you follow up on it? Do you click the button that they've opened it, etc. So I think having a repeatable process is an important one. And one more that's big on quality is a lot of salespeople hate the word no. I have an act in there that talks about making the word no okay. And the reason why the word no is okay is because if they're looking for a house, it might be delayed, right? It might be that that they don't like whatever it is that they're objecting to. If you just make that okay and make room for no, then you're making room for a conversation that goes two ways, right? You're making room for their objections. And there is a way to overcome the objections as soon as you make the word no okay. And if you don't mind, Dave, I'd like to talk about that one too before we move on here. So that technique, yeah. So once you've made no okay, and it's really simple to make no okay because you're going to need business in the future, right? So if you build a relationship with somebody and they stop looking for a house, they decide to rent longer. No's okay, look, okay, you're going to rent a little longer. I'm still here for you. If you don't mind, I'm going to mark my file and check in with it within 6 months. You're going to be part of my active prospect list when I check in. All the things come together. We're going to get that loan later because guess what? We're going to need loans later. So no is okay. Now, if you come to a place where you have a real hard objection, there's a very simple technique. I did not invent it. It's called feel, felt, found, and it simply deploys those words of feel, felt, and found. And the reason why it works is it takes empathy onto the customer of what their situation is, and it moves them through the objection. So I appreciate, for example, if the rate's too high, I appreciate how you feel. Rates went up, right? Nothing we can do. Remember, we can't control if rates go up. Let's say rates really skyrocket, so now everybody doesn't want to buy. What are you going to do, not buy a house, right? So here's what you say. I appreciate how you feel. In fact, I felt, there's the second word, the same way too. I couldn't believe it when they raised interest rates so much in such a short period of time. I thought that was wholly unfair. But here's what we found. Over the long haul, with the time that you spend in the home, you know, the Christmases, the things you do in the family home, you need a place to live. It's not that much more money, so other people have found that they are going ahead and getting the home now as opposed to missing out on the home and continuing to rent or whatever it is, right? So use empathy in a feel, felt, found fashion. It basically, it's like judo. It takes the person in with empathy. It tells them that you agree with their position, and then you just alter their position ever so slightly. It works quite well.
I love it, Jim. By the way, I am sharing my desktop again, everybody. So for any of you that are multitasking, tune in. I just shared my desktop. And I want to just drive how easy it is to deliver a quality total cost analysis, digital mortgage analysis, a quality conversation to everyone. So this is another homework assignment. Make sure you watch this call. Last Tuesday, we were interviewing top loan officers. You know, one of Kelly Zitlow's quotes is, I do over 200 loans a year, and everyone gets a mortgage coach with a video, whether they come into our office or not. So again, great standard. For anybody that has either a CRM, an LOS, or a pricing engine that integrates with Mortgage Coach, we make it easy. I'm actually showing the Optimal Blue integration here, but we integrate with a lot of CRMs, a lot of LOSs, but whether we integrate or not, like everybody who showed how they create the total cost analysis, they didn't have an integration, and they still did it in 5 minutes. But if you had Optimal Blue, or you had Mortgage Coach turned on within your Optimal Blue, there's a Coach tab, you pick which loans, you press the Coach button, and boom, out comes this amazing total cost analysis. You can then text or email that to the client. Remember, it's a conversation. Family clicks on that link, and now you can update it. Part of why Mortgage Coach is so powerful is it's not just a presentation tool, it's a communication tool. It helps you have a conversation with someone, whether they're in your office or out of your office. Now they have that link, and whatever you want them to see, they see. Whether you're on your mobile phone or your desktop, they're following along. So you're having this incredibly effective conversation with the family so that they can follow along, and your advice is just better. So, I mean, at the end of the day, the total cost analysis experience is a better conversation. It's a more effective conversation, and it's a conversation that will help you go to the next level. So if you're on this call and you are not delivering a total cost analysis, you're making a mistake. By the way, if you're on this call, you're a loan officer, and your company has Optimal Blue, easy way, introduce Jim and I to your management team. We'll help get the Optimal Blue integration turned on. If you have other technology, whether it's another pricing engine, a LOS, a CRM, we integrate with all of them, and we would love, like my goal, again, Jim's book, Get Ready, Set, Sell, How to Turn Prospects into Paychecks and Make More Money. I just added that, Jim, because I know you like that part. Best way to do that is deliver a total cost analysis at the point of sale. So Jim, go ahead.
I just want to add something, and I don't know if you can push out a poll this quickly, but if there is anybody out when you were pulling the Optimal Blue, this thing that occurred to me, I would love to know of the people listening on the call, is there anyone that is taking more than 5 minutes to put in Mortgage Coach to get the TCA together? And if you can't do it on today's call, I think we do it on a future call as a poll, because if there is anybody that is taking more than 5 minutes to create a Mortgage Coach, I would like for them to call me directly, jim@mortgagecoach.com, and I would like to solve that.
So Marcy, if you're listening, we will close out today's call with a poll that says, how long does it take you to create a total cost analysis? Option, less than 5 minutes, little more than 5 minutes, or let's just say 8 minutes or longer. We'll give you 3 options. Marcy, if you can get that poll up, and by the way, folks, you don't need to wait for the poll. You could type into questions. Let Jim and I know how long is it taking you. So Jim, I love this. You started the whole book with, foundation. You had these 3 pillars, which were attitude, quantity, and quality. I mean, just essentials to success. And then you close it out with know thyself. So share a little bit about why you closed it out with know thyself, and anything that you think would help people turn more prospects into paychecks and be happier people.
I like the you're like Jimmy Fallon, you got to show the book at the end of the presentation. So yeah, I think the thing with being a salesperson is that you really should understand who you are and where you want to be, and know that the person that if you want to be somebody else, then be somebody else, right? If you wish that you could close more loans, for example, you can close more loans, right? There are some things that you have to do, and there are 3 things that you can control, and that's kind of how I sum up the book. One is your attitude to do something different and to try some new things and to step outside of your box, and you say, you know what, today's the day. I've heard, if you're listening to this call, you're familiar with Mortgage Coach, but tell somebody else, get other people involved, become a coach yourself, help other people and push it along. And again, if you do the same things the same way, the same day, you're going to have the same results as you had yesterday. So I just encourage people. I know the last thing, I'll just make a final note that's also in the book. The Patriots have a sign in their office, not their office, in their locker room, and it says, do your job. And I think that's one of the most, and you can't argue with the success of the New England Patriots, but I think it's one of the most wonderful messages ever. If you're the inside lineman, your job isn't to worry about the fact that the wide receiver dropped the ball. You can't control that. Your job is to block the guy in front of you. And the fact that that's the overarching message that they're driving of do your job, if as an individual you would do your job and let the outside noise and the other things that are keeping you from being successful, you're going to be successful. So that's the story. And And the book is fun. I would encourage people to read it, but I would not encourage this. Don't get the book. Don't read the book. Don't get involved with any book. If you're not going to do something, don't watch these videos if you're not going to do an action that's different based on the information that you just gathered. That's kind of the fine point for me. So there you go.
Love it. So we are ready to open it up for some Q&A. I already have some questions that come in. I do want to push this poll question because we really want to know, how long is it taking you to create a total cost analysis? I would love to get everyone that creates one to answer this question. Is it taking you, less than 2 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, 6 to 8 minutes, more than 8 minutes? Please let us know where you're at right now. How long is it taking you? And by the way, for anybody who's watching this, if you cannot create one in 2 minutes, you don't know how to use templates, and you don't know how to use the copy feature. So watch last Tuesday's call, and we talked about some hacks and some strategies to do a 2-minute TCA. Everybody should be in the 3 to 5 minute range, and anybody that's taken over 8 minutes, you can do it faster. So by the way, one last chance to vote. Let us know how long it's taking you to create a TCA. Give us your vote. Those of you who voted, thank you, appreciate that. And just a reminder, anybody who you feel like you could cut some time off of it, one, watch the Tuesday call. I'll put a link below, how to create a mortgage coach report in 5 minutes. Also, come to our Thursday call. This Thursday, 9 o'clock Pacific, every single day of the week we do training. But come to our Thursday call, and we're there until all your questions are answered. So if you have questions, I'll even tell, the support team probably knows because they're watching this, that there's going to be a lot of questions on how to do it faster. What can I do to take time out? When I did that call last week, after every speaker, I go, Jacob, any speed tips? And he, hey, here's a tweak. Here's a way to cut out some mouse clicks. Yeah, it was super cool. So let's see. I have a question here. Someone asked, again, I've got a lot of questions. Hey, let that Jeremy video. Remember, we have a YouTube channel. It's got hundreds of videos, so make sure you tune into that. You should have it as a goal. If you're a leader on this call, you either manage loan officers, you lead loan officers. I can say this with a lot of confidence. If you want humble, hungry, and smart mortgage professionals, you want to build a culture of hungry, humble, smart mortgage professionals, one mortgage coach video a week will help you grow that type of culture. The people I choose to interview, humble, hungry, and smart. That is who I'm looking for to showcase in Mortgage Coach. Jim, you are absolutely one of those people. Can't recommend this book enough. Buy it, check it out, do a sales meeting around it. We did this interview. Jim, any other words of wisdom as we got 5 more minutes to close this out? Any more words of wisdom to the Mortgage Coach community, and any other actions that you want to drive with everybody?
Well, just one action that I would drive is I want people, first of all, we like to talk to people. Dave, you've done this thing for 8 years. So I would like Jim and Mortgage Coach, I would like people to call me. So if your workflow isn't the one that you like, I would like for people to call me. If you are interested in having your peers use Mortgage Coach, I'd like for you to call me. If you can't do a Mortgage Coach in under 2 minutes, I'd like for you to call me. I mean, basically, the thing, then the reason, thank you, Dave, for allowing me to come on today and talk, the thing that we want to do is we want to help people. And that's not an unfair ask, right? So if you're sitting there, with something that you want to know, or I can't think of what the topic would be, we've got professionals on our side that can help you do that can make it better. So the thing that I would ask is that we're here. It's jim@mortgagecoach.com. I'd love to hear from people, both good and bad, right? If you don't think it works, or if you do think it works, or if you know of somebody else, we're looking for referrals, we're looking to grow our business, and we're looking to help the existing customers use the tools even better. So that's kind of the final point that I would make.
Well, my final thought is first remind everybody that we do live training every day of the week. Also, I want to show, look at your screen right now, I want to show a feature that's coming out. If you go and click preview or live for your next TCA, you'll notice at the bottom there's a little button that says, try new view. Just an example of how at Mortgage Coach we've got the world's best mortgage experience. It's getting better. So if you click and check that out, you can see Mortgage Coach next level version, and give us feedback. We really want to know. If you go to the top of that page, there's a button. It's beta@mortgagecoach.com. We want your feedback. You see that at the very top where it says send us your feedback? It's just an example that what we teach, we live. We want to get better. We're never satisfied with delivering the best experience a mortgage professional can deliver in the marketplace. One last poll question. Let us know what you thought of today's call. I'm going to push this. If you are a guest and you actually want to schedule a demo, click the bottom button. I'd like to schedule a demo, but let us know, did we surpass your expectations with the value that you got on today's call? Did you get some solid takeaways? Average, worth my time? Let us know what you thought of today's call. And again, if you would like to learn more about Mortgage Coach, one, you can email Jim@mortgagecoach.com. You can email Dave@mortgagecoach.com. And you can also, we would love any introductions. If you want to get an integration turned on within your organization, whether it's Optimal Blue, CRM, some other integration, if you want to get it turned on, email Jim@mortgagecoach.com. So, Jim, you crushed it, my brother.
Thank you, man. It was fun.
Yeah. So, any last thoughts? You got 1 minute.
Send us a referral. Look, I'm a salesperson. I'd be remiss if I didn't use my last 1 minute to say, if you know of somebody that's a mortgage originator that doesn't use Mortgage Coach, Jim@mortgagecoach.com, I would be forever grateful, and so would they, to have us connected. So yes, please do send us whatever referrals you have.
Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you on the next call. And remember, on Fridays, it's all about productivity, how to make more money in less time. A mastermind call. See you on Friday at 9 o'clock Pacific. Take care, y'all.